All right. Welcome, guys, to this webinar here today on navigating the evolution of managed services with myself, Rainish, and Ryan Spillane from 360 Consulting. Thank you so much for taking time out of your morning this morning to come along and attend this webinar. I'm sure you're going to get some great insights. I attended Ryan's session in Sydney earlier on this year, and I was blown away about with some of the content that he was talking about in this session. So I know you guys as MSPs are quite interested in mergers and acquisitions. So you guys are going to get some great content out of today, and we'll crack straight into it. Usually I give people a few minutes to come along, but we've got plenty to get into today, and so we'll just crack straight into it. Awesome. So just a little bit about the agenda. So I'm going to get into some of the exciting updates we've got at Blue Chip. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the Enable overview because they're the ones today who are sponsoring the webinar. And Ryan's going to talk about his content on mergers and acquisitions as he goes along. We're going to do a bit of a Q&A as well at the end there because I'm sure you'll have plenty of questions by the end of the webinar. And you're going to be able to scan and win some one-to-one sessions with Ryan. So yeah, that's just what's upcoming on this webinar here today. So just to talk to you about the, everyone on the webinar here today has probably known us as Soft Solutions for the longest time. And we were acquired by Blue Chip Infotech in 2021, a couple of years ago. So they purchased 60% of the company, and ever since then, we've been able to leverage a lot more vendors, bring a lot more vendors to the country, been able to expand as a business, grow the team, grow the company overall, and it's been really exciting times being able to bring more of the most cutting edge brands in the world to our reseller community. They've got sites based in Sydney, which is the main head office, in Melbourne, in Brisbane, and we are the New Zealand entity here in New Zealand, bringing the brands to the New Zealand channel. And they've got 170 staff all across ANZ. And we made the name change. I'm sure you guys have all been able to get the emails and called us, and we've answered the phone as Blue Chip now. We're still getting used to that, but we are officially Blue Chip as of this month in November, as of November 1st. So the conversations that I have with our resellers usually somewhere along the conversation they'll say, "Oh, you guys do hardware now. We've always known you guys to do software," and that's right. The name is Soft Solutions, and we've always done software. But there has been a bit of a change in focus for us, and we do quite a bit of hardware now as well. So we do the firewalls, UPS, meeting rooms, equipment. We do headsets. We do networking gear such as switches, routers, access points, and all the like as well. So we do sell a lot more hardware than we did before, and it's been good. It's had its challenges, so we're still getting used to it a little bit as well. But we're navigating those challenges well and supplying those hardware to our customers, and they are really enjoying us being a supplier for hardware for them. With this, it's allowed us to be able to, it's made us need to change, with all these changes, it's made us need to change our office. So we are currently based in Newmarket, and we're going to be in Ellerslie in the early on in the new year, because we just need to be able to have a bigger location to be able to cater for our expanding team, who is over expanding because of the new vendors that we're bringing on. With more vendors mean more people that we need to be able to service those vendors as well. We're going to be able to bring in those hardware that I was talking about earlier in-house, and have the be able to bring the logistics in-house, and instead of using a third-party company, and that's going to allow us to be more agile and be better at being able to supply hardware to you guys as a result. So we're really excited about the office relocation. We'll probably have a party there early on in the year, so look out for that invite. And we're also going to do things like have a pool table and all that sort of stuff as well. So we're really excited about that, and hope you guys will be too. So talking a little bit about Enable, who are the sponsors of today's webinar. They have solutions to be able to cater to any part of the MSP and run that MSP. And these tools are very effective in being able to allow you to be able to do the best IT services that you can for your customers. So some of the solutions that they do have include the RMM, which allows you to be able to centrally put agents onto machines and centrally monitor and manage those devices. They've got a backup solution, which I'm going to be talking about later on in the webinar. They've also got an MSP manager, which allows you to be able to do job management for your customers and ticketing, and integrate into your billing system to be able to help you with billing as well. They've got a mail filtering solution as well. They've got take control to be able to be able to service those pesky break-fix clients who don't want to be on a managed contract and not on your RMM. They've got a password manager, a central place for you to put all your passwords and your documentation, and also allow you to be able to offer password management as a service for your customers as well to help them with their security requirements. They've also got an EDR solution, partnering with SentinelOne, to be able to offer you some of the best in line and endpoint protection as well. And not on here, they've also got DNS filter on there as well. So just going to pass you on to Ryan now, so give him as much time as possible. So Ryan, he is actually from a different company to Enable. So don't get that confused. He's actually from 360 Consulting, and he has successfully built up an MSP and grown it and been able to sell that off as well. And he's helped other MSPs do that and be successful as well. So you're in really good hands now, and he knows what he's talking about, and he's going to give you some great insights to be able to help you with your business as well. So we'll hand it off to you, Ryan, to do the rest of the webinar.
Thank you, Ranesh. As soon as I get the screen.
So do I need to make you a presenter, or are you good?
You will need to.
Yeah, make presenter. Yeah.
When you take it back, it kicks me. Screen to share. And everyone should be seeing the slide deck now.
Yep, I can see.
So good morning for everyone, and welcome, and thank you for being here. So as Ranesh said, we're going to be talking about navigating the evolution of managed services, and really let's talk about the M&As, pricing trends, some strategies I've used over the years, those types of pieces. So that's kind of the content of what we're going to be covering today. In my slide, we're going to what's the current landscape look like, how to increase your valuation, where Cove fits in, and then Ranesh is going to talk about Cove after I've finished. There'll be some Q&A time. I believe there's a Q&A button that you can ask questions that Ranesh will then ask me towards the end. So you're welcome to throw whatever questions you want in there. Make them hard, make them fun, go for it. So I've got about 40 minutes here to throw what would probably be about 90 minutes of content in, because I've actually created a lot more. So I'm going to move pretty quick. This is getting recorded, so you will get a copy of this later. So you'll be able to cover back on some of these things if you need to. So a bit about me really quickly. Started the first company in 1997, our first IT company, I should say. Merged that into a company in Sydney called Correct Solutions in 2005. Along the path, and then the next 13 years, we acquired 10 other MSPs, or merged, nicely said merged, but acquired 10 other MSPs along the way. And then in 2021, we exited into, or rolled up into, what's a company called Oro now. And then I did a year of transition and handover to them, and finished up at the start of 2022. So while I was running that MSP, we actually helped 31 other companies complete some sort of M&A, from either giving them a valuation, giving them an idea on what to do, or they've actually bought a company and don't know what to do with it or how to integrate it properly. So yes, got a little bit of activity, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the later stuff. I invest in angel companies, startups, commercial property. Everyone has bad experience with a coach, consultant, mentor, and implementer, and I do all of it. So I always make everyone joke with that, and do a bit of time on boards and strategic planning. So who's 360? 360 was an MSP for 16 years originally, founded in 2002. And then we actually bought the company and took the clients into Correct Solutions. And then we transitioned it into an IT advisory. So since 2020, so for the last nearly 4 years, we've been working specifically on helping other MSPs improve, increase profitability, packaging and pricing, Again, M&A consulting, negotiation, all those types of pieces. So predominantly across Australia and New Zealand. So, all right, so let's talk about pricing trends. Let's get into there. So if you think about it, the traditional MSP products, so again, we all came from break fix, which we'll talk a little bit about. We then moved into MSP. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But if we think about where the market's going over the last 5 years, so traditional MSP pricing is actually getting more and more commoditized. There is huge downward pressure on your pricing for managed services. Your cost base is going up, the salaries are going up through inflation and whatnot very quickly, and you're not generally being able to pass that on as quick. So there's a lot of, as I said, a lot of pricing pressures down. Customers are not seeing a lot of value in the basics anymore. They just expect it. Like it's, if you think about it over the years, if it had a power plug, it was an IT problem. Nowadays, we'll talk more about cyber, but if there's anything cyber related, they still expect you're doing it for them, even if you're not, or you've got to be very specific about that nowadays. They just expect it to be done. Ideally, customers are trying to look at reducing their overall spend. So traditional MSP has been a little bit harder, and I think it will continue to get harder. Whereas cybersecurity, if you think about it, the spend on cybersecurity is going up, and it's going up really like exponentially. It's not going up slowly. Up to 12 to 18 months ago, in most small businesses, they didn't think that they needed a lot of security. No one's going to hack them. No one wants their data and whatnot. The only exception to that, I'd say, is those industries that had a compliance requirement. So certain health areas, certain legal areas, government, whatnot, there was a lot more compliance around those areas, so you often had to have something. But I am quite controversial. I'll say this openly on stage. I feel sorry for the people that got breached in Optus, Medibank, Latitude, and SmartPay, which affected Latitude and SmartPay affected a lot of Kiwis as well. But I think that's the best thing that really happened. And I'll again, it's sorry for those people that got caught up in it, but it actually made it and brought it to the forefront for a lot of people, that people realise that, oh, hang on, I've been impacted by this now from a customer perspective, not just a supplier perspective. So, oh, what happens if happened to that with us? What happens if we got hit? What happens if that data got leaked or whatnot? So I think realistically, in the last 12 to 18 months, the clients have been wanting to spend a lot more money on security. It's that lovely meme on the internet that what was the budget before a cyber breach was almost nothing, and after a cyber breach, you've got as much money as you need. I don't think it's that way in client personally, but I do see a lot more spend. The amount of security products we need to add into our managed services are increasing, and that's why overall the spend with the client will continue to go up, even though they want it to go the other way. But we can talk through that by talking about the extra security we're actually offering to those clients now. The other big change that I see is with boards and directors now being liable for security breaches, as well as new privacy laws, the adjustment of privacy laws in Australia, which I know a lot of times New Zealand follows in some parts. I know New Zealand copied a lot of utilised a lot of the notifiable data breach framework into New Zealand, and I know in certain areas you're actually ahead of us. So yes, I think there's a lot more compliance and requirement around that nowadays, and I see that's why pricing is changing. So also over the last 12 months, I've actually been doing some pricing comparisons. There's a link on the QR code if you want to actually join in. So I've got about 100 MSP plans across Australia and New Zealand. It's all anonymous data that I give back out, and if you want, you can participate in it, put your data in, and then we'll do a phone call. It costs you nothing. Do a call or an email with you to tell you how your pricing looks. But I wanted to make sure, considering this is a New Zealand webinar today, that 12% of the respondents and the information that I've got is from New Zealand. The average, and this is some of the average pricing and what some of the pricing details I have so far. So it's always interesting unless someone's willing to share an invoice from someone else, or unless you've lost a couple of clients or whatnot, it's really hard often to find out how people are really charging and what people are charging. So other than just headline numbers. So we've often seen, and from that data that I have specifically on New Zealand, we're seeing a $35 to $40 device pricing. There's no support in that. That's pretty much just the tool set in that price. We're seeing user and device pricing, so this includes your support, range from $110 to $200. Again, this is all local currency, so New Zealand dollars. The average is about $140. There was one outlier in there, and I actually want to call, I'm not going to say who they are, obviously, because it's not a non-disclosure, but there is one outlier in there, and they've been able to back it up from the information I have, that they actually charge around $400 a user. It includes advanced security, includes SOC, includes a lot of other pieces. So that's why they're getting that compared to the average. But I thought it'd be worth throwing that in there for you, so you've got a little bit more context of what is capable and what is possible in the market. And just sort of adding in there as well for what the project rates. So the lowest project rates I saw was 110. The average was 192. I'll say there was a lot in the just over 200, 185 up to 250 there was a lot of people in that range. But again, if you got one or two outliers, and there was two really low pricing, kind of brings your average down a bit. I don't play with the data. I just report what we have. So yeah, so if you look at about 192 is the average rate for your per project rates or project hours. So again, if you want to take a quick photo of the QR code or have a look at that later, it's just a Microsoft form where you put your data in. Again, we're the only ones that see it, and we anonymize it. And I'm happy to give you a bit of a time and run you through where your data compares to the local market. So what are some of the pricing models that we use in managed services? Or again, people would know some of this, but where's it come from and where's it going? So if we think about it, what I call MSP pricing one, the early days for us, that was in 1999, was our first fixed price contract. Yeah, it was only one, and then it was probably another 8 or 9 years before we then sold the second one, and then in the late 2000s, it just went absolutely berserk. 2005, 2008, it was great. But it was device based. So we charged for how many servers did you have, how many workstations. Sometimes you charge for network devices, how many switches, what early days of one wireless access point or two in an office, and printers, those types of things. We often had three plans. It was kind of bronze, silver, gold, or good, better, best. And really, most people were on this were in that middle plan. It's where you wanted them. The low one was a little bit too cheap, but it got people onto some sort of reoccurring. The middle plan was where you wanted them. It was actually had some good value there, and then you had a better plan that just made the middle plan look cheap. Is what what most IT companies really did. So again, I've broken down there from a lot of companies I know. About 70% of the clients ended up in that middle plan, or 70% of your revenue. 25% were on the lowest one, and then you still had a few clients that actually went on that best or that higher plan. But there was not a lot difference between the middle and the highest. Just a few more ticker boxes, and you made it look better. But back in those days, how many clients stayed on your break fix, didn't move to managed services? And there's still, I still consult with plenty of companies now that are still doing a lot of break fix and still making money, but they still haven't made that transition. So we then move from what I say, the MSP1 to MSP2 pricing. And this is where we transition from devices across to users. So how many staff, how many users did you have? We often drop that down to two plans. We decided we didn't need the third one anymore. You had old clients still stay on the device plans while we try to sell them on the new user plans. But pretty much most of your new clients went straight onto those plans. You never talked about the old plans as such unless you absolutely had to. This is where the first part of that transition happened as well, is we often started including more than one device. So I know in our plans, we included up to 3 devices. I've seen some people include up to 5 devices. And that was okay at the time when people often only had one machine. You might have some of the C-suite or the CEO, the CFO might have a laptop and a desktop and a PC at home that you looked after. So it wasn't too bad. Most people just had one device and that was it. Whereas now, people are having a lot more devices. We need to put more security on. And that kind of feeds me into what I think the new pricing models are, which I consult with and help people build these out. But just giving you the advice of what I recommend, and that's we start billing for users and devices, and we have security included. So back in MSP2, we had antivirus in there. We might have anti-spam, malware in those types of things, and whatnot. And that was pretty much the extent of it. Where nowadays security is not a nice to have; it's a must have. So we need to be including that in our plans. So as I said, we bill for users and devices. So why do we do that? Again, there's some pieces on the screen, but really the big part of it is most of it is your cost is actually coming through on a device base. So your EDR platform, your backup platform, Cove, all of those types of pieces are on a device base. Yes, there are some components. So your your mail filtering, your mail archiving are on a user base, but the majority of your cost is actually on a device base, SIEM, SOC, etc. So why don't you align your revenue to those costs? So if you think about it, a company that has, or again, a user that has 3 devices on the old user-based pricing, you're paying for 3 EDR licenses, 3 RMM agent or enable licenses, 3 of these, 3 of everything, but only getting the revenue for 1. So it's not hard. Customers nowadays actually know, and most clients know how many staff they have because they're paying them, and they generally have an idea of how many computers, or if not, you can give them a list pretty easily, and they generally won't deny any of that because it's real. So we actually say bill for both. As I said there, clients can easily understand that they have X users and Y workstation/servers. So it gets around the issue of people having multiple devices. And the nice bit about it, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, is it actually starts helping you automate some of your billing. If you actually align your user counts out of your Azure AD or your your local AD or Intro AD now, not Azure AD, you can link that into your RMM, into your PSA. You can then look at your RMM counts, so how many desktops and laptop servers are in Enable. That's exactly what your device count is. So it makes it pretty easy. I am seeing, so I've got probably 5 or 6 clients doing this already, and I know a number of other people, since I've been talking about this for a year now, are starting to go this way. You might need to add a site fee. If a client has 20 sites, then you might need to add a site fee in as a variation. I also see if you're starting to add SIEM in, well, you can't easily cover that. You need to actually put that into a specific fee because every customer is going to have a different device number, or and it's obviously it's the highest cost piece. And SIEM obviously goes on router switches and those types of pieces which you're not necessarily billing for. But if you have a good user and device price, then a lot of times you don't need a site fee. But just throwing it in there that could be a variation that you might need. So I suggest start having a look at some of these things and start considering whether you could move to a user and device base. So what's kind of the M&A landscape looking like at the moment? So one of the main buyers are what we call consolidator types. There's roll-ups and expansions. So we were part of one of those. You've got private equity and vulture capital, or venture capital as it's said, but vulture capital as I call it, or listed companies. You've got telcos now wanting to get into the space. And we're actually finally starting to see some of the global players. So they've already been there from the enterprise perspective. HPE, HP Services, there's a pile of them at that level, Fujitsu, etc. But we're now finally starting to see some European and some US companies starting to buy Australian and New Zealand. I know a US company at the moment that's in negotiation with a couple of New Zealand companies right now. So yes, in the past we've always been left alone, but right now there's a lot of people coming in. And then the traditional one, just the straight pure mergers. So that's kind of what's been happening. So I'm not going to spend probably 3 seconds on this one. This is mainly an Australian slide. I don't have, unfortunately, there's no real big player in New Zealand that's been acquiring a lot of businesses. There's the odd one that takes one business here and whatnot. You've got some of the larger players in the enterprise space, but in Australia, just showing you here, there's kind of 6. There's a few more, but there's 6 big groups here that have been acquiring businesses. So Oro was the one we were in, so that was Correct Solutions, was our old MSP. Again, last week they just took over and acquired another one called NW Computing. So Nexon have been in there. They've picked up quite a few. So you see there's a few groups that are kind of continually buying in those smaller MSPs. So calling MSPs that are doing 2, 3, 5, 10, $20 million worth of revenue. So I'll give you some real numbers. So how do things come together, and what are the values of MSPs, and what's the value of your business? So there's a couple of ways that we value MSPs and TSPs, the technology service providers. The predominant one of the normal valuation is what we call the multiple of EBITDA. So EBITDA is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. In simple forms, and I know the accountants hate me when I say this, but it's basically your net profit or your operating profit down the bottom, and you add your depreciation back on. Because a lot of times in Australia and New Zealand, we don't do amortization, those types of pieces. So, but it's pretty darn close. But yes, if you're a purist, then no, it's definitely not. But yeah, so we then look at what any add backs added. So have you got a boat in the business? Have you got some of these other things and some of the other costs that wouldn't normally stay in the small business? And then we'd actually apply a multiple So that's how we come to the initial value. And then what are the multiples, which we'll talk about in a second. Another way of valuing, and it's rare, it does happen. It often definitely happens in SaaS businesses, but in the MSP side, it does happen from time to time, especially in really rapidly growing businesses or fast growing rocket ships, as we'd call them, because a lot of times they don't have a good bottom line, but they're really growing their recurring revenue, really growing their top line revenue pretty quickly. So, and that valuation is a multiple of your annual recurring revenue. So yes, and you can see it in some of the bigger transactions. So I'm talking when you start breaking 20, 30, 50, 80, 150, 200 million type transactions, you can go that way because they've often been investing quite heavily in that growth. So here's the slide that not many people ever put up, but I openly do. What are the multiples? So they kind of vary by size. So if you're under $1 million, then you've got a certain EBITDA multiple there. There is a column specifically for you guys. I will say though, there's not many MSPs that are 10 to 20 million size in New Zealand. So that's where the data really stops between that 5 and 10 because there's quite a few in that space. Not many sell, and there's plenty in 10 to 20 million as well in Auckland and in some of the bigger cities, but they rarely sell, and you don't ever get the information. So I've given you some ideas there. So again, between a 1 to 3 million revenue business, which I believe that's quite a few people on this webinar, you're looking at a 2.5 to 3.5 times multiple. That 3 to 5 mil you can get to 2 to 4.5, and that 5 to 10 you can get to 3.5 to 7. Now there are some transactions going through higher than that, definitely. 8 is common and can get in New Zealand, which is funny. If you look in Australia, we're actually a little bit cheaper. We want a quicker ROI. We don't like paying as much. So Kiwi businesses, the New Zealand business, are getting about 40% higher than Australia, and then again, you probably get another 30 to 40% uplift if you're in the US. So Australian businesses are often about half of what the US multiples are. And then, quite interestingly, if you go to the UK, the multiples are even higher again, and their profit rates, or profit margins, are actually lower. So it's quite funny. So where do you fit in that? So let's talk about that. So if you're running a business, say between a 0 and a 7.5% profit, you're probably on the lower side of those multiples. 7.5 to 15%, you're probably at that midpoint. And if you're running greater than 15%, then yeah, you're at the higher end of those multiples, and even slightly bigger. If you've got some, talk about in a few minutes, if you've got some intellectual property, if you've got an X factor in the business, then yeah, you can get higher multiples. That's not a problem at all. But one thing I will point out though, that the average MSP profitability or EBITDA globally is about 6%, about 5.7 to 6%. So unfortunately, a lot are on that lower side or close to that midpoint. So what are some of the factors that go into the valuation? So your adjusted EBITDA, which we talked about very quickly, which we'll go through more. So this is just kind of the surface level. There's a slide on a lot of these coming up. Again, mindful of time to give you Q&A. Your revenue size, what your growth rate has been over the last few years, is that consistent, and your consistency in the business, a business moving up and down, and profitability moving up and down quite rapidly and whatnot, is definitely not consistent, and you probably get it hurt a little bit there. What geography are you in? Are you in a major city? Are you regional? Whatnot? What business model are you running on? Have you got strategy in there? A very large single client is a risk. So anything more than about 10 to 15%. So again, cover off on some of these things, but these are some of the factors that go into the price and the evaluation of an MSP. So, and then ultimately, it's really only worth what someone's willing to pay at the time you are selling. So there are kind of natural waves of the market. Right now, there's a lot of buyers and not many sellers, but I'll be honest, that hasn't increased the multiples. So go back 3 years ago, 2 years ago, the multiples were higher. Right now, deals are still definitely going through. I've got a couple in the market at the moment, and a couple completed only a couple of months ago. So there's plenty out there, and there's a lot of other people working on this as well. So yes, you've got to time the market a little bit, but sometimes, and that's why you've got to prepare. To be honest with you, be preparing to sell your business a couple of years before, or running your business in a way, still investing in it, but run it in such a way that you could sell at any point in time. So how do you increase your valuation? So some of you may have seen some of this before, so I'll cover off on it relatively quick, but get your financials right. get your practice management system, your general ledger, your chart of accounts right and detailed enough. Don't just have one income bucket or 5 income buckets. Like, don't just have product and services. Don't just have in your product. Start breaking it down. What's the difference between workstations and laptop servers, etc., or hardware for networking, etc. You don't need to get too granular. Don't get me wrong, but something that you've got to be able to provide some value in that information. On your service side, what is project revenue? What is fixed fee project versus variable projects? What's in your managed services side? I would often have a breakdown of each of your plans, breakdown where the revenue of security products are going, networking, etc. You want to really align your costs to the revenue. So if you've got a revenue bucket or a revenue coding or general ledger code in your chart of accounts, have a cost one associated with it too. Have all your tools broken out. It makes it a lot easier to understand what it's costing you to run your MSP. So how much is your PSA? How much is your RMM? How much is your backup product? All of those things. Your expenses should be broken out. I often say if your profit and loss report can fit on 1 or even 2 pages, there's not enough detail in there. So no, you don't need to get too over the top and make it 20 pages. I think ours was 6 or 7. But yes, 1 or 2 is just not enough, especially when you're going to sell. Can you easily show, and the perfect example of this is, can you easily show what your service monthly recurring revenue is and your product monthly recurring revenue? So how much NCE are you selling? How much Azure are you selling? How much backup as a service are you selling? They're all recurring product, and they're worth a hell of a lot more than just a one-off product sale in when you sell. So you need to be able to show your service recurring and your product recurring. So another one, ensure your customers are on up-to-date agreements. You don't, like, we had clients on auto-renewing 12-month agreements. They could get out in 90 days, so we weren't long-term contracts. We still did very well. Ultimately, contracts give people time. It gives the new owners time to form a relationship with those clients, and that's why people would ultimately like contracts in place. Like 3 and 5 year agreements are great, but longevity also trumps it. If you've got a customer that's been with you on a yearly contract or a yearly agreement, they've been with you for 20 years, and they've got no intentions of moving and the relationship's really good, that's still better than a customer on a 3-year contract that you've got to fight for at the end to try and make them renew. Evergreens are good. So evergreen is where an agreement automatically renews each year, but as long as the terms and conditions allow it, you can do that. It's actually it helps you, but it also helps the client. A lot of times nowadays, they're required to actually have up-to-date agreements with their suppliers. So don't think that there's a fear in that. Actually talk about the positive side for the clients and those types of things. And the other big one there, don't have 23 types of agreements, like a device-based this, a user-based that, or still have your 3 device bases, your user ones, now your new user and device ones, and sell every single thing under the sun. Have up to, again, your agreements could either be a managed services or a master services agreement, or you could have solution-specific agreements. Just have everything up to date. Again, for full disclosure, a good New Zealand company, a good Kiwi company called Zen Contract could be worth you to consider. I am an early stage angel investor, but again, for full disclosure, they also have a way of automatically renewing your contracts. I don't put that in there because I get anything out of it. I just put it in there because it actually helps a hell of a lot of people. Make sure you have assign rights in your agreement. So if you're not sure what an assign right is, you probably sign them yourself on certain agreements with your suppliers, but it basically says that the agreement you have with your customer, you can actually sell that to someone else or have another company complete that for you, and they don't have an option. They actually, as long as the terms are the same, the agreement continues until the natural end date. So make sure you actually have that in there, because that makes life a lot easier. Because if you don't, then a customer can say, no, we don't want to work with the new company. We want to still work with the old company. And you may actually still be stuck in that you're no longer running an IT business, but the client wants and expects that contract to still be handled. So if you don't have them now, get them into your agreements. Get assign rights in there. Have a chat with your solicitor. Have a look at some of the templates out there, and then customize them. Don't just use a straight template, but get them in now, because you're not probably going to sell in a month's time. But it just means when you next renew an agreement with a customer, it already starts having it in there. Talk about cleaning up the amount of systems you have. I would suggest you probably have 10 to 15 systems at least. If you start really documenting those out, you're probably going to have 30 or 40. we ended up, my team ended up stopping there, and then I started mentioning all the systems we used, and we had about 70 systems. Now, that was through a lot of acquisitions. We had 60 staff and whatnot. I'm not talking about vendor web portals here. I'm talking about, if you think about you've got your practice management system, it probably connects to a system that then links it to your Xero or to your accounting package. You then probably have a system to take direct debits or credit card payments. So if you think about it in finance, just to create an invoice, you're talking 4 systems there alone. So when you start really documenting these out, have a look at it. Look at how much they're costing you. How much, like, are they needed? Are they really needed? If you start thinking about it based off your multiples earlier, if you could cut $10,000 or let's say $20,000 out of your tool set cost in a year, and still providing a good service, to be clear, on a 4 times multiple, or even a 5 times multiple for New Zealand, that 20,000 is worth either 80 to 100,000 in your pocket when you go to sell. So at that point in time, do you really need all those systems, and are you getting the most out of them? So we had a process that we called spaghetti to lasagna. Just, we always joked about trademarking it, but if you think about a big bowl of spaghetti, it's the systems, data's kind of everywhere, and it's a bit of a mess. Where lasagna is a really nice layers of pastry, and all the systems are aligned. So you're never going to get perfect, but if you start doing that, it'll help a lot. Customer size and retention. So sure, no customers 10 to 20% of your revenue. So it's harder when you're small. I get that. I remember when we were small, when I joined Correct Solutions, the 2 biggest customers were, what's his name, 68% of the revenue. So the biggest customer was over 50%. Now, I knew that going into it, to be very clear, it was a massive risk, but we had that customer for 20 plus years. So it was not we reduced that risk by growing all the other customers around the outside. So even when we sold, our biggest client at the time was on like $60,000 or $80,000 a month, and they still only represented about 11%, or I think it was just under 10% in the end. So if you have a very large customer, or a really large single customer at 30 or 40%, your valuation might get done twice. You might actually have a valuation of the business with that customer in there, and then a valuation of just that customer. So just be aware of that. So don't try and get rid of a customer like that. You want them, they're great for you, but try and just build the business up around them. Too many customers in a single industry or a market can cause a problem, unless you're a niche. So if you just do nothing but medical, that's fine. But if you're just a normal MSP looking after a number of industries, what happens when retail has a downturn, or something, or agriculture or whatnot? At that point in time, you can actually have an impact into your business. The perfect example of those retail, we often use them as, again, if you're coming into any sort of recession, then they don't want to spend a cent at all. So retention is really important. So if you can show, again, a customer that's been with you for 10, 12, 15 years versus a customer that's only a year or 2 in, that's really important as well. Are you paying yourself correctly? So this is really pretty important. Are you taking a commercial salary? And there's guides out there on how much you should be taking for the size of your business. If you're not sure, drop me an email at the end. I'll just give you a number. But yes, you need to know what a replacement person would cost in your business. And if you're not paying yourself that or more, this actually hurts you. So what we do when we do a valuation is we actually look at how much you're paid. We look at what a replacement for that role would be. We take your salary out, and then that gets added back to your EBITDA. We then actually put in the replacement cost for your role, and then we bring that back out of your EBITDA. And a lot of times people are underpaying themselves. So that when we do that, it's called the adjusted EBITDA. It normalizes what you're getting paid to what the market gets paid. Now that's critical. This happens in every transaction. So I literally saw some numbers last night of a company wanting to sell. They wanted a pretty high multiple, but they were then underpaying themselves. They're a $6 million business paying themselves $120,000 if this was Australian numbers. But I'd expect someone in there and the market where they were in a major capital city for a business that size to be paying themselves about $160,000. So if you imagine on an Australian multiple for a business like that, say 3 to 4 times multiple, that delta there between 120 and 160, or even let's just say 160, not even 180, that's 40,000 on a 4 times multiple. That's 160,000 less than the value of that business just in that alone. So never, seriously consider what you're paying yourself and make sure it's market. Prove all the extras that are going through your business. I'm not the ATO or the Inland Revenue Service and the tax office or any of those. I don't care, but you need to tell me what's going through it. I found a racehorse. So there's some examples. I don't put them in there for legal reasons, but I've found a racehorse in someone's books before. When I did this presentation on stage with Blue Chip actually in Perth, one of the other people presenting actually came up on stage and we hilariously we're up on a panel, but we burst out laughing because he actually found a shot. What was it? A shotgun and two boats were on the balance sheet. I don't have a problem what you put through your business and use pre-tax money, but we need to know what that is because all of those extra add backs are not going to be there for the new owner as such. So they get put back into your adjusted EBITDA. So we definitely want to know. So yeah, sometimes just have a way of proving those things. Don't necessarily share that with your accountant. But again, a big asterisk there. I'm not providing tax advice here. Documentation, and I'm almost yelling the second documentation of this. Like this is a big one. Like have good, and I say no, just have great documentation. Now, don't get me wrong. It's documentation takes time and it takes years. It's got to be part of your culture. And there's nowadays there's just no excuse for not having it. You just have to have it. Now, don't get me wrong, and the last point there is don't let perfect get in the way of progress. Everyone thinks, oh, we need to find the right tool, we need to find this, we need to get all of those types of things. No, just start. Four screenshots and a sentence under each one is crap, let's be honest about it, but it's better than what you had 2 minutes earlier. The next time you come back and look at it, you'll realize that it's not great, so you'll just add to it. Just make sure everyone's doing it, and it's everyone's responsibility. So that also relates to customer documentation. I said earlier, just have some X factors in the business. If you're doing Power Apps, Power Platform, that's a good one. Security was in the past. I still think there's a little bit of time to go there, but it's become just really a requirement. ISO 27001, it was still a differentiator in smaller MSPs. In the larger end of town, it's a given, it's a requirement. Now in Australia, if you want to work with any of the large businesses, any government departments, anywhere, you've got to be ISO 27001 certified. Getting the process automation, if that makes sense. Just make sure we're trying to build some intellectual property. So, what are some of the other experiences and strategies I've seen? So, automation's a big one. Building efficiencies, like spending time in your RMM. So, spending time in Enable, building out scripting and auto healing. If it sees this event log, go and automatically heal. Do all those types of things. And what's the original initial parts of Microsoft's with autopilot? Now, autopilot's meaning something else nowadays, but yes, there's a lot there. Have a look at potentially P or Roost or their automation type products. Cloud Commander, which is part of the Enable product nowadays, or I think it's in beta, and I think it's about to be released if it isn't already. That's all about making your Office 365 tenancy management more efficient and copying settings and know those types of things. Again, the biggest cost to your business is your team and your staff time. So make them as efficient as possible. And again, as I said earlier, contract renewals and management, just try and automate a lot of that if you can. ChatGPT and large language models, AI, machine learning. I won't get on my high horse about AI versus machine learning, but ChatGPT's got its place. It can get you over writer's block. It doesn't always produce the best content or whatnot. GPT Engineer is a new one that I've heard the other day and saw. It builds code for you. Okay, you need to write a PowerShell script or you need to write something. Hey, I need to do this. Go and throw it into there. It does. I think you need to have a ChatGPT 4 license, which is $20 US a month. So come on, let's just go and get it. DALL-E, I think it is. Or what's his name? Something similar to that creates graphic content for you. There's plenty of it out there. Now, it's not hard. It's not. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy. There's so many options out there. You don't need to be an expert in AI, but start having a conversation with customers about it and go on a journey with them. All you need to do is be one step or one page in the book in front of them, and they think you know everything. We don't know everything, and we're far from it. And this thing's moving so quick and changing. So, what are some other random thoughts? I think and experiences and whatnot. So, double or triple your time and investment in your tools. Get the most out of every single one of them. I know we always want the best tool for everything, but sometimes I've often said the best antivirus product deployed badly is rubbish versus even a bad antivirus product deployed well is still going to catch more. So it's no different with your tool set. Like pick your tools and spend time with them. Or again, we used to reevaluate tools about every 3 years. Invest in your people, soft skills included, so time management. We used to have people come in and talk about budgeting and all different things. We actually paid for one of our one of our admin staff to go and do a cupcake thing because it was all about measurements and precision and things like that and whatnot. So those things are important. It's not just technical skills. It's not just the latest Microsoft certs or the HP or the Sophos WatchGuard, the 40 or any of those things. They're important. You need to have those anyway. Participate in industry events. Get out to involved in peer groups. Go to actually in-person events and just start asking people questions. Like just don't go and hide in the corner and don't be afraid to ask questions. It makes a big difference. Ensure you have a planning process in your business. Over the years, we used the Giselle's method, the StratOp, and then finished on EOS or the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and actually help companies implement that nowadays. But it's great. It actually forces and drives communication through your business. So I'm mindful of time. I'm going to say, is there any quick Q&A? And we can answer any questions here. Again, Ranesh has some pieces on code and the code data protection that we need to cover. So I'm happy just to answer one or two quick ones here. Ranesh can then cover off on the code side, and then we can finish off any Q&A again if needed.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Ryan. So a few questions have already come through. And on the top right-hand corner of the webinar screen, you should be able to see a question mark logo. You click on that, then you should be able to submit a question, and I'll get them answered by Ryan for you. And if we can't answer it on this webinar, then we'll take a note of it and send it through to you later on. But there's one question that's come through already from Daniel, which is, what is the greatest misapprehension or incorrect expectation business owners have when they go to sell their business?
Definitely the value of it. I would say, unfortunately, we've heard for years what the US multiples and what the pricing is in America and Europe and whatnot, because that's the only data that's ever been out there. It's the only thing people have ever talked about. So there's a lot of people think that's unfortunately worth a lot more than what it is. And also how long it takes and the effort that goes into selling it. It's not a 5-minute process. A general process is 6 to 12 months. Once you decide to sell, to go through the whole process of 6 to 12 months, due diligence, and the whole process. It's even the quicker you try and rush it, it's still 6 and often even 12 months. And really, you should be preparing 2 years before you want to sell your MSP. Start cleaning up your figures, making sure all of those pieces there. There's a pile of other things you can do in your business that just helps to increase the value. Likewise, how much time, I would say, is another one. If you are literally inside your business every single day doing 60, 70 hours, then someone's going to potentially cost in 2 people to replace you, which then again hurts your valuation of how much you're going to get. So again, building out that process procedure, being able to get the team to be doing the work, and you working more on the business rather than in the business makes a big impact to the number as well.
Awesome. Okay. Daniel's asked another question. So for a first discovery meeting with a potential acquisition, what kind of things should we be determining before rushing in like a bull at the gate?
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's that kind of awkward first date. When you get together, it's like, what do you want to share? Are you going to share too much? Are you going to annoy them, or is it going to be a topic that you can't talk about or whatnot? Look, just start talking. I've never been one that subscribed to whoever gives a number first loses. Plenty of times I've proven otherwise, but I wouldn't walk in with a number to be clear. But you start on talking about what your revenue is, how many staff you have, what markets or verticals you work in. That's a good starting point. And then from there, like, what is it a merge? Is it a sale? Is it an acquisition? Which bit is it? If it's a merge, then both of you are going to share information. If it's an acquisition, you still want to know about the company that's acquiring you. You want to know if are they financially strong? What's their culture like? All of those types of pieces. So yeah, just start having a discussion. If you feel uncomfortable, stop. There's no problems with that. And again, I can tell you now, it was about 6% of conversations actually went anywhere for me. Incorrect that was, to be clear. So if you think of the 10 that we did and 6%, like I would have had 140, 150 conversations over that 13 years. And some of them are just, it could be just a 2-minute conversation. Others, you you might start talking to someone, and 12 months later or 2 years later, they come back and they're now ready. It's not going to happen immediately. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people out there wanting to acquire at the moment, but they're also not going to pay silly numbers. Did you want to do one more, or do you want to cover off on your Cove stuff, Ranesh, now, and then we can come back for any other questions? But I've got, I think, one or two. Obviously, there's a giveaway. These are that Ranesh will cover through in a second. But here are some of the topics that, with some of the what you get a couple of 1 hour sessions with me. It's some topics we can cover off, and plenty of other things as well. And last slide there, that's my details, because obviously we're going to cut back across to Ranesh's deck at the moment. A LinkedIn QR code there. Again, the email's on the screen, or you can scan that QR code and it'll fire off an email to me or whatnot. So yes, there's my contact details. Thank you, everyone. I'll answer any questions if we've got time. Otherwise, Ranesh, handing back across to you.
Thanks, Ryan. There was no more questions anyway, so it's that's all right. Yeah. Okay, I'll just go back and share my screen now. You guys want my notes on the screen? Cool. Let me know once you can see my screen.
Yep. Okay.
Sweet. Awesome. Okay. So just to conclude this webinar, I'll just talk a little bit about Cove Data Protection. So it's a backup tool which allows you to back up your important workstations and your servers with file and folder backup, and also your 365 users as well, including their Exchange, their Teams, their SharePoint, and their OneDrives. So with Cove Data Protection, what does it sort of give you? What can you sort of expect for it? It's quite an easy solution to be able to use and deploy, which allows you technicians to be able to focus on what they need to focus on instead of fluffing around trying to sort out another backup. It allows your customers to be able to have clear, defined value of their backups. So workstations and servers have a certain pricing. The overage costs are very cheap. 3 cents per gigabyte, which allows you to be able to have the, if your overage runs over like the allotted usage amount, it's not going to blow the budget by too much. And it also gives you peace of mind because it's a robust solution and gives your customers peace of mind so that there is a robust solution in place. There's also recovery testing options available as well for you if one of your customers is nervous about their backups or is interested in compliance. So some of the key highlights of Cove includes that it's an all-in-one console. You don't need to host any infrastructure at all. Once you do do a backup, it's going to shoot the backup into the Equinix servers in Sydney, which is the closest data center here. It takes up a little less bandwidth and storage than some of your traditional image-based backups. So your traditional image-based backups can be quite bloated by the time it goes through the consolidations of daily, weekly, and monthly backups. Cove Data Protection uses patented True Delta technology to be able to use block technology to back up blocks, and it only backs up the changes to a file, backs up the changes to a file. So when it comes time to do the restore, then it only restores what it needs to. So it takes up a lot less as a result. It's cloud-first storage, so it shoots the backup straight to the cloud, but you can also have a NAS on site when it comes time to do the restore, and it has multiple recovery options as well. So if you need to, you can restore it to the original location, to another location on the PC or the server. You can restore it by a recovery console and install it on another machine if there's total theft or destruction of device, or you can do bare metal restores as well. So it's got a lot of granularity and flexibility for you as well. So this is the end of the webinar now, and so 2 people who attended the webinar here today is going to go into the draw to win a one-on-one session with Ryan, and which is of great value to you guys. He's going to do like a 1 hour session with you guys, and I'm sure it's going to help you guys quite a lot. But there is an additional entry for those who scan the QR code here today and go and start up a Cove trial. They're going to go into a separate draw to be able to win another one-to-one session as well. So please scan this QR code if you are interested in looking at another backup solution and looking at, and I'm sure probably not everyone's going to scan the QR code today and go into a trial, so you've got a pretty good chance if you do scan it and go into that draw. So with that, thank you so much, Ryan, for your time here today. I'm sure some of the stuff that you talked about here today was invaluable to the business owners. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, and we'll conclude the webinar here today.
Yeah, most welcome. Any final questions, happy to answer them, and I'm sure I'm happy to answer any code questions.
Sorry, I missed that, Ryan.
No, I was just asking, were there any final questions from any attendees on Cove or anything we've spoken about?
No, just one from Daniel recommending if I've got a good headset that excludes extraneous office noise.
Yes, you do have a little bit of background noise.
Yeah, keep that in mind for next time. Cool, awesome. All right, well, we'll conclude the webinar there, and if there's any other questions that pop through last second, then I'll send them through to you.
Well, I'll also say if anyone needs to connect to speak to Blue Chip New Zealand or go through to Ash, there is a post survey that you can put any information in, any questions as well. But if that's what's his name, co-trial doesn't work for you or whatnot, or you can't start the trial, speak to Ash, so we can get you into that trial as quick as possible. But otherwise, thank you.
Awesome, thanks a lot, Ryan. All right, have a good day, everyone. See you later.
All right.